Welcome back, everybody, to the Vertical Table. I am Ryan Doyle. We're going to hop into the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation in a sec with Rich from Renegade Rolls. This is gonna be a very good one. Rich, you are bringing a lot of like storytelling and like improvisation to the Dungeon Tubes. I mean, it's out there, but you're really like laser focused on it, which I really like. You recently did one on zero prep, which I've never done on purpose. Yeah, what was the main takeaway on that, or what has running zero prep games taught you?
So zero prep games for me are almost like the boss fight of game mastering. It's
Well said. Yeah, yeah.
it's something that you can think about. Go, oh, how would I do this? But until you sit at a table and you like sit there with your friends, and you've got literally nothing in your notes. Well, I've got tables and like pre-gen lists and things ready to rock if I need them. But sitting there with nothing is such a scary, liberating experience. And I likened it to improv on stage, which I blame Brennan Lee Mulligan for,
Hmm.
to be honest. I blame him for a lot of things. When I was sort of getting into sort of game mastering, actually, like one of the things that came about from me starting my YouTube channel is I was looking for, well, how can I get better as a game master? Can I bring people on my journey, on my path to improving? And looking out for other advice, and the big one that stuck out, a lot of people said, especially Brennan Lee Mulligan, was learn improv. So I did. I found classes just local to me. There's a place in Glasgow that puts on courses, and that standing up on a stage with no idea what you're going to say next is so scary, so liberating, but everyone wants you to succeed. And it was exactly that same vibe for for running no prep games. And then all I'd do is I'd give a very quick premise to my players. I'd say, we are in medieval fantasy, all the cliches and tropes apply. Tell me a little bit about each of your characters. Because I'll let them prep. They're welcome to, if they want to come with pre-gens or come with whatever they want. And all I do then is just listen and write down notes. And someone said, "Oh yes, my character was a sorcerer. Used to be sorcerer to the queen." Right, having that. This Act One is going to be in the courtyard of the royal palace, kind of thing, as they've come back to see the queen again. And from there, I'm building and building and building and building while still trying to listen to everything else that's going on. So it's scary, nerve wracking, but try it once, but be among friends is the recommendation. Um, Choose people you trust and love who are willing to be kind if you fail. But the fun thing about that is that every time I've done that, those kind of zero prep sessions, the feedback I've had from players has been brilliant. So, oh, it's so great. Like people say, oh, I've never had my character feel like so much part of a story before. Because often when we run modules, when you're running Curse of Strahd, I think was the example I used in the video, Strahd is going to hate your characters regardless because you're trying to defeat him and sort of yeah kill him and do all the bad things. So making bespoke enemies, giving them bespoke reasons to be adversarial to the characters becomes much more personal and a really interesting way of playing. Stressful. You need to drink after. You need to like chill out. I remember the first time I did that, I was awake till I think 3 o'clock in the morning, just wired. So it took me a while. Like no coffee, no caffeine, no cola, and like that. Just the energy of that 3 hours, 4 hours straight of just very focused listening was draining, tough, but so much fun. I recommend that to everyone.
Yeah, I do think there's a misconception that like zero prep is like going to be easy, right? Because you're not doing your standard D&D Dungeon Master preparation is like spreading out the effort. Yeah, you're kind of preloading a
Yeah,
little bit. You have to be so freaking on to run it, but you're building those muscles too at the same time.
yeah.
You're
I've
ready the next time the players zig when you thought they would zag and like you haven't filled in that part of the map yet. You can do like that's my experience with
yeah.
zero prep is just making shit up because I didn't I didn't prep it yet. I didn't do it on purpose. But that
Mm.
is oh man, that is like you're performing at like a peak level and the stuff that comes out. you've gotten everything else out of the way. So you're discovering right with the players. And I think, and you
Yeah,
say it in the video too, you talk about how listening is such a key component of that too. It's not just that you are better at pulling stuff out of your own head. It's in
mhm,
the air in front of you and you're just connecting dots.
exactly. Yeah, and the prep that you do kind of do is I've run lots of games over the years. I've I've described 100 medieval castles. I've described 50 different ways of how magic spins forth in your fingers with little reds and golds and yellows, and I can pull that out of nowhere if I need to. That gives me a good fallback because I've described scenes, described 100 dungeons, 100 dragons. Having that in the back pocket, ready to go, and then just tailoring it to what's happening at the table. So the prep has been the last like 7 8 years of playing and running games, but the it's getting away from the specifics, not thinking too far ahead because the story of the game, the story that we tell with our friends, that should be for me, I think, a collaborative experience. And if I came to the table with, okay, the adventure should be this, then this, then this, then this, and and the baddie should do that, and we will have this final showdown in the cave where he'll drop the crystal into the lava or whatever. By pre-planning that, I've taken lots of decisions already. That could be the wish. That could be the wish of the bad evil guy. They could want to do that, but the as soon as your players, I don't know, someone rolls a natural 20 on the first round and smashes the crystal, what have you got now?
Mhm.
So freeing yourself up from that was very liberating. And I'll do that, I think maybe probably about half of the time. And if it's a one shot pickup game, yeah, that tends to be my go to. For something, if it's part of a campaign or a longer thing, the thing is, I enjoy world building as well. I enjoy like that kind of the pre game of thinking about a world and locations and characters and stuff. So I wouldn't want to deprive myself of that fun of sitting there coming up with stuff just at home beforehand. Though one counter to that is that the ideas that you have at the table, the ideas that you have while you're sitting there with your friends, they are no less valid than the ideas you had last week when you were prepping your game. And there's not you can't put your last week I was so clever and smart. No, you're in a different environment. You're there with your friends. You are clever and smart, and you're surrounded by your players who are clever and smart as well. Use their inspiration, bring that, gobble that up, and make something unique. And then the story becomes well what you tell afterwards when you've put all these pieces together.
Precisely. Sometimes those ideas that come up at the table are better because you have the full context. You're inside the game if you're doing it right. Awesome. That is super inspiring. I am looking forward to getting creative with you on this. We're gonna do something a little bit different, but not that different today, with the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation. Blah!
I love the artwork to this, by the way. I
Um,
think that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it was super inspiring. All the same artist Grand Failure is their pen name, brush name. I don't know what an artist's I don't
Nom de
know.
plume if you're
Nom de
feeling
plume,
fancy.
right? Yeah, but
Nom de
actually
plume.
let's park it here. But I really like the idea, similar to what you were just saying. Like I generally prep to a degree. I'm usually above the zero threshold, but I do my best to prep in a way where I'm ready to let the players burn down the world. I don't want to get locked in to like the one specific idea, like this is the final cinematic moment that I am building up for 4 hours. Like that's cool. It's nice to have an idea like that,
Mm.
but I try not to be too precious with it. And that's kind of where this came in of like, all right, if I feel comfortable that I can immediately make stuff up, then it's way easier for me to kind of like let go of the steering wheel a little bit and incorporate what the players are doing much more. Um, and in theory, and then in practice, because I have messed with this thing a bunch, working with the players, like connecting the character to the story is much easier when you're working with like the root code. So give us explain to me your premise once again here. We're gonna rock with a criminal, and I want you to explain why again, please.
Okay, so I am planning a video all about how to roleplay difficult characters, how to roleplay as someone who is the kleptomaniac, the thief, the liar, the kind of person who usually your players would look at and go, "Oh, I'm not adventuring with them. I'll go away."
Mm,
But in our games, we usually find that the narrative demands the fact we're all sitting around a table together. That demands that we find some reason to stick with them. So the idea is this will be a guide for players who want to play those difficult characters, but to do them in a way where you don't have that interpersonal tension between you as players. The characters can still have a lot of angst and sort of battles between themselves, but to find a way of making your characters a bit more three dimensional. Because if the only thing that you know about a thief is that okay, they steal stuff, well, why would you hang around with them? Why would you go on a great epic quest? Why do you risk your life with that person? And so the video will hopefully give some interesting answers to that and yeah, help folks come up with how to play liars and thieves and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I'm really curious to see what we make here. This is gonna be this is gonna be fun.
that sounds super valuable because I find a lot of players, new and experienced, honestly, but especially new players, come into this space of like you can be anything you want to be and there's no consequences. It's like, well, I'm lawful good 99% of the time in my real life, so like why I know what that's like. Like I'm gonna be a total jerk. And the idea of like, okay, but this is also a team sport and you need the rest of the people to trust you with their lives and want to keep hanging out with you. Sometimes that falls by the wayside. So this is a good experiment. I really I support this project.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
All right, so to kick it off, I'm going to ask you to roll one of everything.
Cool.
D12, 8, 6, 4, 10, and 20. Set
Okay.
those in a weird order today.
And brace yourself for production values here. Here we go.
Dice
Ah,
cam.
dice cam. Yeah. And so just in order or just all at once?
You can give me the D20 first if we're worried about like space
Okay.
concerns, because you got a little straight. We don't
No.
want to go off the camera.
Yeah, sure. So number one, that is, oh, I don't know if you can see that. This is tradition at this point.
Nice.
That is a natural one.
So the final stop on the player side, there is like big number goodness to it. The rest, there is no natural one bad, natural, crit good.
Mhm.
Um, all right, so the character's drive, dream, or aspiration. Why is this criminal out there doing adventure stuff? Because they want to clear a debt that's been hanging over them.
Nice. That could be, even just thinking about that from a high level, well, that could be a debt to one of the other characters
Mm.
straight away. That'd be great. You often see adventuring parties where everyone's deliberately very equal, but in I don't know real life groups and things, that's kind of rarely the case. Even yeah, think about Lord of the Rings. Sam is Frodo's gardener. That's their that's
Straight
their
up.
vibe. That's their relationship. Yeah, and they are not a group of equals. Sam's the working man. Frodo's the aristocrat. I think it's never quite explained, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely
I
landed
really enjoy
elite.
yeah, yeah. So I enjoy the idea of being in like horrible debt to one of the characters, and not sort of oh you saved my life, or I must repay my blood bond or something. I'm thinking like some money, like or they got them off of something like utterly heinous.
And right out of the gate, that's a very good way to create some sort of dramatic tension and like why is this jerk doing the right thing? Because they're obligated to, despite
Mhm.
all of their instincts, they have to go along with
Yeah.
like they owe the
Mhm.
paladin a debt, so they gotta play ball or whatever the case is. I like
Mhm.
that a lot, actually. That's really good.
Yeah, and I think something like really generic about if you are playing a criminal or a liar or something, they need some sort of code because you can be an assassin or you can be a criminal without being a monster. Like if you're a monster, you just attack everything and everyone. So you've got to kind of bring yourself one step back from that. The crazy version of the criminal would be just a thug or an absolute kleptomaniac that would just steal from everyone all the time. If you try and be that character, you'll make yourself very unpopular. So being like maybe one step more reserved than the this as a logical conclusion of that really far out place for them. So yeah, I think this criminal of some sort will have a code, have something about them, some driving force.
I take it. Yeah, because you got like if the person sitting next to me was playing this character, would I want to continue showing up on game night? It's an important question to be asking yourself. All right, give me a D12, everybody's favorite, including
Um,
yours, the best die.
yes, best dice. I did a survey actually. I went to a convention. I just started asking people, and very scientific. And yeah, D12 came out on top there as well. It was yeah,
And,
it's a good one.
until I
That
started this
is
show, I always like that's my answer, but I didn't realize that was everybody's answer. I mean, once in a while, there's some variety in the community, but for the most part, like D12 is off to a commanding lead. It is the people's favorite.
yeah. Yeah, that was a natural one as well. I might just get this improbable succession of ones. It might finally happen because that's a one on the D12 as well.
I would love it. You kind of, oh, okay. It does feel like you
Oh,
manifested this. This was meant to be you your catalyst, your call to adventure, why you're no longer just doing crime, but adventuring in whatever story we are telling here, raised to honor the criminal code. The dice are
there
speaking.
we are. Yeah, that's perfect. And yeah, looking at sort of some of the other ones on there, I mean, I think they'd all be really fun. But yeah, that code having a you need a reason why you're not the monster. You need yeah, you need the reason why you're not just wild. So yeah, what the criminal code might look like for this person would be interesting. And I think it would be yeah, rob from people, steal stuff, do crimes, but pay your debts, honor your yeah, honor your commitments. Which I suppose that could get to quite almost like sort of like mafia territory. It's like
Mm.
family is the most important thing, where even these sort of, yeah horrible folks doing really crazy things still have lines they won't cross.
Yeah, that like lawful evil, whatever holes you want to
Mm.
poke into the alignment structure, like
Yeah,
lawful
yeah.
evil is a thing. Like there
Mm.
is a hierarchical structure in play and rules to follow. They don't necessarily comport with the law, but there's a strict code in place. Um, I,
Yeah,
I
it's like
do.
rob from the rich, give to the poor. That's a criminal code,
That's a
and
code.
yeah,
Yeah,
um,
there's like a lot. It's like what the horseshoe theory, like the chaotic good to lawful evil is like yeah, they get close to touching at the at one extreme there. Um, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to re-roll that one, not because we're getting rid of or replacing this, but we can add to it if you want another catalyst. We can keep
mm,
on rocking as
um,
well.
yeah. No, let's do that actually, because I think that's that's like yeah, catalyst and calls to adventure. That's almost like a that's their past, and there's other ones on there which are give a very good reason why they're out in the world and adventuring. Because any sensible person in our fantasy world is going to stay. You're going to stay home. You're going to do a regular job because adventuring's crazy and dangerous, and it's something I think it's in the introduction text of Knave. Actually, it reminds you that the your heroes and adventurers. The other word for that is a knave. It's someone else who doesn't have any other employable skills. So off you go. Go get down that dungeon and go fight some people.
You got to be
And
nuts to
yeah,
be doing this. We had this conversation last
yeah,
night of like like why are we doing this? Like because the money is really good, but you're going to die.
yeah. Oh, let's see. So re-rolling. That's a three.
A three. Adopted by a legendary criminal in their youth.
Ooh,
Okay, all right.
nice. I like that. Um, have you ever read? I'm going to remember the name of the book. The Lies of Loch Lamora.
Oh, yes, they are.
Hmm.
Those are quite good. I always
Yes.
want to say Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which is a Steve Martin movie, but it's Inglorious Bastards is a movie. I don't know. What?
Yes,
Yes,
that's
I
him.
forget what the name of the
Mm,
series is, but yeah, Liza
mm,
Lockamora, incredible. Everyone go
mm.
read it.
Yeah, Gentleman Bastard trilogy, I
Yes,
think it is.
thank
The
you, thank you.
Gentleman Bastard series. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, they in that there's the idea of this legendary criminal, and it's like the characters actually make, without a spoiler, they actually make the legend as they're going, and everyone say, "Oh yeah, it's actually this person who doesn't exist," but they then become sort of embodying that. But I think, yeah, for this character, I could imagine it'd be really fun to be like protege to someone like sort of god tier criminal. So like someone who, I don't know, stole the queen's crown off her head or something. Um, I think that would be, yeah, I think it would be really fun. And then how they learned, and presumably found that code as well, because you, if you're a legendary criminal, you don't steal everything. You steal just one or two like very carefully chosen things.
And I love that you like grabbed onto that word legendary there of like this could be
Mhm.
like a Dread Pirate Roberts situation where it's actually like a collective that's been passed on. It's not like a singular person. It's more of an
Mm,
idea, and like you've been
mm,
adopted into that. I mean, crime family essentially.
yeah.
Oh, I
Mm.
like it. Okay.
Yeah. Little tangent. Do you know about the origins of the term Luddite?
Yeah, I mean, the historical, like that, the guy who started smashing machines, because it's a very
Yeah, very much so.
pertinent
Yeah.
story in the age of AI. Yeah. Go on.
Yes. Yes. So a small tangent. The Luddites were a group of 18th century mill workers who, with the introduction of new mechanized machinery and things, they realized their jobs were at risk through all this mechanization and stuff. So they weren't, the nuance of it is that they weren't against mechanization. They were against the factory owners who took all the profits and sort of froze them out. They only need like one person where 10 people were working before. And so they effectively unionized and called themselves, they named themselves after a mythical person. So instead of saying, "Oh, who are you doing this? Who are your leaders?" And they would say, "Oh, Ned Ludd," who didn't actually exist. It was just a mythical figure to sort of give a name to. And yeah, in the age of AI and things, I'm quite proud to call myself a Luddite. I'm not anti-technology. I'm anti-technology in the hands of, yeah, in the hands of the techno bros, broligarchy. That was a word I learned recently.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate it, but I like it. I like the term. Um,
Mm,
God, yeah, there's you can tell we're living in a dystopian hellscape because the idea that the robot's going to do the job for you
mhm,
isn't this Jetsons Wonderland that we're about to usher in. It means you're going to
mhm.
starve to death. It's like, wait a minute, hold
Yeah.
on. So, okay,
Mhm,
so it takes we could do 1/10 of the work and survive. No, 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 no. You're
mhm,
still. We're actually going to up the hours per work week. It's just
mhm,
most people are now unnecessary.
mhm.
Okay, that sounds. This is the only way to do
Yeah.
it. This is the only way. There's no way to question this system here. Okay, I don't like that. Let's escape into
The
fantasy.
Yeah, the robots aren't, the AIs are not smart enough to do your job, but they are smart enough to trick your boss into firing you and replacing you with an AI chatbot.
Yes, because they're very good at telling you what you
We
want to hear.
digress. We immediately digress.
There's an episode in the archive where we just talk about AI for an hour.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, I'm not, and it's interesting.
Mm,
So the term Luddite now, the
mhm,
connotation often is that it's someone who refuses to get on board with the new
mm,
technology, right? Like someone who's
mhm,
like still using Facebook or like whatever, someone who can't open their phone. When in
mm,
fact it's been stripped of all of the
mhm.
labor connotations, progressive connotations.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a nuance there. And when people describe themselves as Luddites when, oh, I can't just use one of these modern phones or something, or oh, I can't get onto, I don't know, I can't get onto the Facebook or something. Chances are it's because your phone's got evil. But
Oh
separate
well,
discussion.
it always was. All right,
Dark, dark patterns, all of that.
roll a d8. Let's get back to this totally made
I
up
can do
lawful
that.
evil situation.
Yes. Let me see. 5. That's the end of my improbable succession of ones. Happy to
Five.
report.
Okay, we can go. We can. I'll give you one as well if you want. But potential growth of character arc. So we've been talking about
Hmm.
emergent play throughout both of these conversations. This is the sort of thing you want to discover what your player character becomes through the things they experience, but having some sort of concept going into it can kind of help you lean into doing some interesting things. So we're going with 5, final answer.
Uh, I've just read 5. Oh yeah, let's do it.
Okay, okay. Um, Going from a save yourself mentality to saving the world. Yeah, that's a very
Nice.
that feels right.
That's a good arc. The risk with that kind of thing is to almost like get to that too soon.
Hmm.
I think if I was playing this for any length of time, the first season would be exactly on that first half of that sentence, save yourself mentality. So like those sort of acts of heroism, which are really common in games of sort of, oh, I leap in front of my friend so they don't get hit by the fireball or something. They just wouldn't do that. They'd be hanging at the back, looking for their own opportunity. They'd, yes, save yourself. They'd make sure they're always like the first one to safety. They're hanging at the back a bit. And something I really enjoy is trying to play character in combat, which doesn't necessarily mean making stupid choices, but they can be suboptimal
Hmm.
and what the character would do in that moment. So in D&D terms, the rogue class, which I assume this criminal would probably end up being, they tend to be very sort of upfront in your face, sort of frontline attackers, and then dropping away again. With that in mind, I'd probably have this person be like a sharpshooter, be an archer or something. Be sort of working from the back rather than sort of getting up front. And in combat, if they were a rogue kind of character, they probably wouldn't have any sort of healing abilities anyway. Although now I'm thinking, obviously this whole thing is system and class agnostic.
Mhm.
What would it look like if this character was a cleric or something? What would it look like if they were I don't know, a paladin now? And that arc to maybe from one thing to another would be really interesting. It's something that's I think a bit of a shame in systems like D&D is that it's tricky to completely change your class. Well, obviously, you can do it mechanically, but it's rare to see that. It's rare to see that done. Um, but I could imagine that this person maybe goes from rogue to paladin, or it's in order to get to saving the world, they'd need something bigger than themselves. And so, if I was GMing this, I'd be looking for anything in that character that they care about outside of themselves.
Hmm.
What would you risk your life for? And fortunately, in most games that we play, sooner or later that will be the party. you will the characters will put their lives on the line for each other. But to have someone who was a thief, a criminal, to become this paragon of virtue, this person who really could save the world and for that to be their ambition as well, that needs big change. That needs something so huge and important to them, something which they really would, yeah, lose their life for, repeatedly put themselves in danger over the course of a campaign in order to make that happen. And yeah, I don't know what that is yet, but yeah, curious. I'm loving that.
And I mean, obviously, a rogue fits very well with this like criminal concept, and and I mean, at least in like 5e terms, and like Pathfinder, most systems, the evasiveness, the sneaking around, the hiding, the like. All right, if things go sideways, we're running, right? And there's a good way going back to the concept of like contributing to the party, right? Like you're gonna be thinking more tactical. Like, hold on, let's not rush. Let me listen to the door before you guys rush in there like idiots. Like what is good, there's ways to contribute in character that makes you an asset. But I love the challenge of playing against type in a class. And you were talking about Liza Locke Lamora. I hope there's the blind priest. I forget the actual
Oh
deity,
yeah,
but he's
brother Chains is with
yes. Yes, there's I mean it's
yeah.
he's evolved very far from that origin, but like that's an NPC in my
Mm,
world. It's just like very much so there is in this series there is a god of deceit, essentially, like thievery. They pretend that they're worshiping one god and they're collecting charitable donations for that god, where in fact they're actually running a criminal organization. So
mm,
like, yeah, if we wanted to take this to
mm,
like, a trickery domain cleric, where yeah, it's
yeah,
more, whatever that could inform our code. I'm sure that same deity would have paladins and warlocks even.
yeah.
Um, there's
Yeah,
some
that'd be
way of like,
interesting. I'm just thinking the other characters in the book. I cannot remember the other character's name. The boy who's sort of like bigger and stronger, a bit of a bruiser, but the nicest guy.
mhm,
Um, and yeah, one of Locklemore's like best friends. Um, he probably, if you were to play that character in a campaign, they're probably a fighter.
mhm.
That's that would be their class. I believe I was reading up on it. I believe that the books actually came about through a TTRPG game. It was so the writer was playing this sort of built the world, and as that all came about, and some of the adventures and some of the hijinks and stuff do feel very much like a TTRPG campaign.
I believe it. I never thought in those terms before, which is kind of ironic, I guess.
Mm,
But yeah, 100, I could see that. I could absolutely see
mm.
that. Okay, so I mean, do you want to do we want to drill down on the class, or do we want to leave that open-ended right now?
I think open ended for now. I think I've got the beginnings of the idea sort of percolating of begin as a rogue and then sort of multi-class into something else and then become fully that other thing
Mhm.
as their story changes. I had a character in a campaign that's finishing next week, I believe. We're actually getting through a year-long campaign that a friend of mine has been running, and in that campaign, this was a character that lost a foot in the first in the first game. Started as a cleric, and there was a big traumatic moment for them, and basically turned their back on the god in question, turned their back on all the gods, and sort of embraced the natural magic in the world and became a monk.
Mm.
So in that moment, it was one of those sort of death scene role playing moments where she's on zero hit points and had this sort of interaction with her god that she realizes this god said, "Oh, I can save your life and make you more powerful if you will just kill this person for me." And she was a very sort of moral person, clearly more moral than the god was, and said, "No, I will not kill in anyone's name. I will not do that." And turn her back on them. And so now is a monk where the four elements, which sort of brings in it's a really tricky one to run actually as a player. So many options there, but that is so interesting because that character has completely changed class while still being the same character all the way through with the same values. But it was so thematic. That moment was one of my absolute probably all time highlights of yeah playing D&D was that moment of realizing that we could do a really big change for that character and such a central moment in that story, and yeah, absolutely loved it. So I'd be on the lookout for that moment of crisis. I'd be on the lookout for that climax, that sort of defining incident at some point. I wouldn't want to if this was a character I was playing, I'd say to my GM, eventually I'd love for this to happen. But again, if you try and force something, if you try and like push it along, you will. It just feels unnatural. And the best stories are the ones where it's just everyone's creativity just working together, and then the story is what you get at the end. So if you're saying I this should happen, you're going to be disappointed. But if this could happen, if there's an ambition, then we're in a yeah much better place.
Perfect. All right, we're gonna cross the divide here, take half a step towards the collaborative world building side. This is still the player's page, but this is definitely the part where we're talking to the DM a little bit more. So roll a d4, and this is going to give us a friendly faction. Perhaps we are a member, perhaps we just have a relationship with them.
it's one of the weird, like I don't even see on the camera. It's one of the weird like pyramidal D4s.
I
Quite odd shape.
really, I really like those. I got my
Yeah.
hands on one of those recently because D4 is my least favorite die.
On the plus side, there's no way of like rolling this where it like points up because sorry, that would be deadly. That is the spikiest
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
But here we go. I shall roll. That is another one. That's amazing.
Love and yeah, we could just go ones across the board if we're really trying
Yeah,
to push limits of this.
I'm loving my
Um,
cursed dice. It'd be great.
a GM needs some low rollers in the mix. You don't always want to run hot. All right, a friendly faction, the Midnight's Ravens, clandestine
Ooh,
couriers and messenger service operating in code and can't.
ooh, love that. That immediately makes me think of the Runners of Pern. Um, I'm going to forget the name of the author. I believe female fantasy author, like written around like 90s or so. But I think this one was just a particular short story of theirs that I read, where there is a group of runners. They are messengers and couriers, and their entire deal is they are the fastest. They will get your message there, and it's sort of this medieval fantasy world, but they've got like specially made shoes for running in so that they can be just the ultimate messengers, and they'll do like sort of fitness training and all sorts in order to be sort of faster and have more endurance and stuff. And please, someone tell me the name of that book, because I'd love to read it again, but it's completely slipped my mind. Yeah, I think they are Runners of Pern. I'll look that one up, but immediately twisting that to be a bit of a darker faction in some way. Um, I love the evocative names for all of these as well. So yeah, Midnight Ravens, um, and so as a friendly faction, and whether that would be like they're a member of this or that could be like the faction they were brought up in.
Hmm.
So bringing that to a character. I like the idea of them being a member of this faction at some point, or maybe being a alumnus of of, like something like that, where they maybe were involved with the past, but now in the past, but now they are out and adventuring for reasons. Um,
They lost a foot.
so
Can't
it can't happen twice.
can't pull
It
it.
can't
Oh,
happen
okay,
twice.
okay.
Yeah.
I think it can happen
Let's
exactly
see.
twice, actually.
Hmm.
Sorry.
Oh no. Oh dear. Let me see. Yeah, like Midnight Ravens. I was gonna say Midnight Runners. I don't know how well you know your British pop music. There's a band called is it British Dexy's
It's
Midnight Runners.
I was like, this sounds like a band name. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, Dexy's Midnight Runners. Or yeah, cannot name any of their songs. I apologize, but involved in couriers and messaging, like to be a good criminal, it's all about your information. It's all about what you know, and the best criminals get caught because they have incomplete information. They didn't know that there was an extra guard on duty. They didn't know the jewels had been moved or something. So working with a, a guild who specializes in information, getting messages to who needs them would be yeah super interesting. I like the idea of whoever runs that guild, that group would be so powerful. Um, like the again, there's a character in Eliza Lochlamora. I think they called the Spider. That's right. Yeah, and
Maybe.
just this, yeah. Not mentioned too much, but it sort of comes out at the end of the first book. But they're very much like I'm not doing well on character names. Game of Thrones. Um,
Well, the spider, right? Varies.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
Varys. That's
think
it.
that
Yeah.
like overwrote my yeah.
So I'm skipping fantasy worlds all over the place here. But yeah, someone like that who just knows stuff, and I think it's a little bit of the fantasy trope of like, oh, the beggars all share information; they're all in with thieves guild,
Mm.
so like it makes a natural fit for information broking for couriers or that kind of thing. How that would fit into this character, hmm, I'm not sure actually. There's a ton of options. I might actually come back to that when we've sort of done the next part on this, because that could give a useful person to sort of interact with.
And there is value in like kind of leaving things open ended to a degree. So it's just like, here, Dungeon
Mm,
Master, where do these guys fit in
mm,
your world, and
yeah,
how might I benefit from that in the future?
yeah, and it could even be something like the game starts with I don't know, the leaders of the Midnight Ravens, I don't know, up for execution or something.
Mm.
It could be something that maybe was important and is immediately taken away, because that could be a good call to action to do something to sort of get our protagonists up and running and doing stuff.
And from the
Um,
DM side, just like the more ways of delivering information, like I don't know,
mm,
6 months from now, like just like this little kid all in black, like with fancy shoes, like runs up to you, hands you a piece of parchment, and just runs into the
mm,
night. It's like
yeah,
plot hooks, huh? It's out. Like, thank
yeah,
you, perfect. Thank you for providing me with that
yeah.
opportunity.
Mm,
All right, roll a
yeah.
one on that d6. Let's go.
Okay, see what I can do. 26. There we go. That's a six. Ha!
Oh, all right.
Oh.
I'll take it. Um, asset or ally. So this is an NPC, perhaps part of that faction, perhaps someone entirely different.
Mhm.
Gray Marble, grandmotherly proprietress of a quaint B&B paid for by a life of crime.
Amazing. Oh, Grey Mabel. Ah. um, the temptation to make a criminal character into the urchin orphan kind of person is, yeah, pretty strong.
Hmm.
In fact, Grey Mabel is the legendary figure, the legendary character who, where's that gone?
Yeah, like
Yeah, adopted
she taught us the
a legendary
code
criminal.
in the early
Yeah.
days. She took us under her wing. Yeah,
Mm,
she used to be the Dread Pirate Roberts
mm,
or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Insert
yeah.
fantasy name here.
Mm.
Mhm. And now she's retired to a
And
quiet life.
mhm. um, I'm noticing I've been playing Brindlewood Bay recently, where
Oh
you are,
yes.
yeah, retired little old ladies solving crimes. And yeah, my character was called Mildred Malone, whose cozy style, which is one of the things you have to choose as one of your character traits, was all the cardigans, where the sleeves would be like full of like handkerchiefs and like boiled sweets and stuff that will fall out when she'd run anywhere. And she had a cozy activity of aggressively doing crosswords, and she's got a personal beef against the setter.
Aggressively, like she
Um,
like would like push her pen through the page. How do you aggressively do a crossword? I guess I'm not that deep in the world of crosswords. She just has
I'm
strong
not
opinions
even
about
sure.
like
Mm, yeah, like, frankly, that clue is beneath you,
Mm,
setter.
yeah,
Just so
yeah.
disappointed. Yeah, if you're a Discworld fan, I was picturing the patrician.
Oh, sure.
Um, yes, and like having this sort of confrontation with the, I think at some point in those books he says the only mind more devious than mine is the is whoever's setting the crosswords for the Times.
It's in one of the 60 books. Um,
Yeah, I think it's making money. It's one of the Moist One Litwig ones, I think. But yeah, going postal maybe. But yeah, one of them.
I that was my guess, and I bit my tongue because I'm
Mm.
very much prepared to be wrong because I read a bunch of those like in a summer, and they all kind of bleed into
Mm.
each other.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
But I think you
Fair.
might be right there.
Mm.
Um,
But yeah, so Grey Mabel is this legendary criminal, and yeah, that means my character grew up, yeah, as well. I don't decide how old the character is. I mean, it could be a long, long time ago, and this character is actually sort of in like a bit older, maybe a middle age already, but Mabel's still going strong. So one of those little old ladies that's like made of leather, it's like made of teak. It's like grown old and stringy.
I mean,
It's like incredibly strong.
we didn't get into the race, the species of it all, but like, you know,
Mm,
if you're one of the longer lived lineages, you could be a
true.
thousand years old and, you know,
Yeah,
still
yeah,
going strong, making your tea.
yeah. Yeah. So I, I could imagine like sort of teaching sort of decorum and manners and things, while also teaching how to sort of like palm coins and like do close up close up magic and like that kind of yeah fast hands even work. Yeah, it should
Yeah,
be. Oh, see, I really want to be game master for this
oh well,
game now. Whatever's happening here, because yeah, just like that, these characters would be so much fun to bring in.
give it time. We got one more on the player page, and then we're gonna
Yeah,
turn over to the DM's side of things. But
nice.
it actually just struck me that like one way to have your jerk of a character potentially redeemable is through
Mm-hmm.
their relationships with other people. So like
Mm-hmm.
you're a total jerk, and then like session two, session three, you go to the tavern and like this grandmotherly figure who everybody loves is like doting on you, and you're like a totally different person around them. And it's
Oh, Mabel. Oh,
mhm.
Mabel. It's like getting smut off your cheek or something. And yeah. It'll be really fun to like see the mask slip and like,
Mhm.
hey, here's this other side, which I'd imagine they try and keep that very well hidden. So keep that decorum of like, cool. No, I'm this, yeah, I don't owe nothing to anyone. And then it's revealed that, oh, by the way, they're, yeah,
Uh,
working with, yeah, Grey Mabel.
yeah, and then
That's
yeah, and
brilliant.
they turn out to be way more like you at the end of the day than the party assumes. Oh, I like it. Okay, so as I said earlier, the D10 is the only
Mm,
one where big number good, but
right.
there's no bad answers. Some of those low rolls are fun.
Mm,
Give
here we
me a
go.
D10, please and thank you.
Do it. Ooh, that's a 10 or a
Oh, we
0.
did it!
Yeah.
The
Where's it
gloves
gone?
of pilfering. Grant advantage when thieving or using sleight of hand. Very useful.
Woohoo. Yeah, I like that. Um, oh, if we were doing the dramatic, doing the dramatic NPC death when Grey Mabel finally killed, probably doing something like super cool, like the rival criminal gang or the King's Guards finally bust her, and she's like, "They're not going to take me without a fight," and gets to like walking stick and like
Hmm.
thrashing around, and then yeah, eventually they realize it's a lost cause. Like, yeah, yeah, take these, and
I just
I like
and they're
that.
like,
Mm,
I don't even know how to describe fancy Lee gloves. Like toe skin, like white leather. I don't know, but like yeah, they're like
yeah.
elbow length. They're like
Mm.
opera gloves.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, and the thing is, like, I'd imagine this character would be like so attached to it that they would never take them off. They're like this sort of, yeah. I'm picturing this sort of very gruff looking, like clearly up to no good character, but wearing like these beautiful opera gloves.
Yes. God. Yeah,
Mm,
because the character can be a
yeah.
jerk if I
Mhm.
am not taking them serious. If they're the butt of the
Mm.
joke,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like that's a workaround. I don't know
yeah.
the
Or
person.
well, I suppose the other thing as well is like if the rest of the party see this moment, like yes, that would be a sort of a comedic thing, but it's clear that like if I was that character, I'd be like genuinely cut up about this,
Mm.
and like I would like actively like leaning into the sort of dramatic side of saying, no, no, she can't be dead. That's oh, I'll make a little vow in that. Maybe that's how they get the paladin arc. Maybe they vow in that moment never take the never take the gloves off and to use them for use them to do something good, and then it takes them on a whole different journey.
Oh, I love it. Okay. Do we want to do anything else on the player's side with this character before we go turning to wearing the game master hat?
I'm liking this so far. I think that character would work well in certainly a sort of traditional fantasy setting, but could also be fun in a modern setting or a like sort of cyberpunk and things. Anywhere, basically anywhere which has a sort of a thriving criminal underclass.
So everywhere.
Um, yeah, yeah. It might not work. It might not work so well in the I don't know, sort of the grand. if it started like, hey, this campaign starts at level 12 and you're off fighting the Balrog, then possibly not, because I think you'd lose those sort of initial interactions. You'd lose the initial kind of that origin and those sort of starting points. If I was to try and bring this character into a high level adventure, I'd be really keen to have them have flashbacks and moments of that kind of origin. Because otherwise, it'd be like, well, how did they get here? We've maybe like missed some steps of the story. Something I've discovered is that my preferred form of fantasy is the low powered characters, or at least the ones who still feel relatable. When you are headbutting a god, you've kind of lost it. I don't know. There's maybe not as many stories, at least not the story, maybe not the stories that I've read, of characters who are that powerful and that sort of superhuman to sort of go toe to toe with like these big, huge creatures you sort of find as the sort of capstone enemies of a like a high level sort of campaign. Whereas the stories of cops and robbers and thieves and that sort of more gritty side is something I really enjoy, even if the tone isn't necessarily gritty. But you are small people in a big world, and that's certainly my preferred style of play, rather than you maybe like call it the power fantasy of I am immortal, I've got the sword of swording, and I will smite all in my path. Okay, yeah, but I'm not as interested in that tale as I am. See, after this call, there's a very good chance I'm going to stay up for a couple of hours and just write something. If I send you a 10-page backstory,
uh,
then
you're welcome. And I'm sorry.
I think so. Yeah.
There is.
But yeah, I'm up for the GM side now. If you're
Cool. I am
up
with
for that.
you on that, like preferring the lower power side of things. It's interesting. There's this idea that the stakes are getting higher and higher as you climb the levels of
Mm,
D&D, but there's a threshold where like, no, there are no more stakes.
mm,
You're watching the
mhm,
Avengers, everybody's half of the characters can die and they'll immediately come back. There's no dramatic impact anymore,
mm.
at least for my
Yeah,
preference.
yeah. Well, that comes back to the storytelling side of story is change. It's one of the key things in. Well, that's one of the big highlights in the book called Story by Robert McKee. And if death doesn't mean change, that is no longer a good story point. That's no longer a good beat to be hitting. If you're at such a high level, you've got wish spells and you've got resurrection spells and all the rest of it. You can no longer be using the death of a character or the death of anyone to really drive narrative like that. And so if you as DM are comfortable with that, if you've got other greater stakes in mind, maybe it's time travel, maybe it's, I don't know, something else that you can really ramp, if you can keep on ramping up and up and up, even when death is no longer the barrier that it would have been before, then more power to you. But for me and the games I'll play, death should always be meaningful. It should always be, because it's such a core thing to everyone's human experience. It's yeah, relatable whether you like it or not. So to make that into part of the story, yeah, part of the sort of making sure that everyone knows what's important in the world is a really good way of sort of scaling the scaling the power level like that.
Yeah, very well said. And if death doesn't is meaningless, then like what's left, right? Like you don't have to start at
Mm.
death. You don't just like kill
Yeah,
your
yeah.
character
Mhm.
session one to like, no, we will have consequences
Mhm.
here. But like
Mhm.
if nothing, like what matters if that doesn't, it gets tricky.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um
I can recommend. I think Tail Foundry did a really good video on that one. But if you come across them, they're a YouTube channel mostly about sort of writing and like they do sort of critical analysis of like films and books and things. But they will talk about like those kind of themes of yeah how to make like big stakes and why what do you do when death isn't the end. They're also beautifully produced. If you've seen any of them, they've got this sort of just this robot character and these little sort of these little sprite
Hmm.
things on screen.
Yes, yes,
And
yes. It's been a minute, but yeah, wonderful.
yeah, the presenter of that's got just the nicest voice as well. It's a really good time. But yeah, highly recommend it. I think there's a video from them on that, which is yeah, a very good shout.
Nice. All right. Turn to the page, Dungeon Master side. I'm going to ask you to roll 4d6. We can roll them one at a time if that is easier.
Yeah, I will. I'll clear the decks here. So move these out of the way. Yep. D6s, you say?
D6. Our first stop on the tour is going to be an antagonistic organization, a faction that are not super into us.
First D6 is 5.
5, the Bloodhound Brotherhood, bounty hunters, very comfortable with collateral damage.
Ooh, they would be complete anathema to my character. Who, if you are being this sort of master thief and criminal, it's all about precision. It's all about sort of
Mm.
one well placed blow, and I could imagine they work really well as a low level foil. So not maybe not even like a high level antagonist. You maybe wouldn't make them part of the big bad or anything, but they'd be a really fun contrast to this character where they can sort of coming in all guns blazing. Literally, if you're doing a mafia kind of game,
Hmm.
and having them just making a mess, while my character's trying to be sort of smart and quiet and precise and doing all of that, I think it'd be really really fun. Um, yeah, and bounty hunters. So I'd imagine they'd be like the thief takers. Then they'd be. uh, I'd probably, if I was GM, I'd make them something like uh, sort of like a crack squad in the city guard or something. I'd make them a band of a band of law enforcement even.
And I love the ideas like, I'm against these guys, not because they're the law, not because they're against me. Fundamentally, they're out to
Yeah.
get me. I don't
Uh,
like them because they're sloppy. Like that, that tells me so much
yes.
about the character.
Mm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. These guys are rank amateurs. There's no
Mhm.
artistry to what they do.
Yeah. See, even from that, I'm thinking there's so many voices that I'd be tempted to do for that. I'm not great at character voices, but I'm sort of trying to learn to like, add some to the repertoire. But the temptation to be like a very well spoken thief chooses their words and their diction incredibly carefully against oh no, let's wreck stuff.
Hmm.
It would be very very fun.
Hmm. Yeah, you get like
I
this
do
like
find myself slipping in. I find myself slipping into the rather well-spoken aristocrat. Speaks like this and looks down their nose. Quite. But yeah, the that manner of speaking doesn't have to be the same as the accent. The accent's always something like sort of sprinkle on top once you've got the character in mind. And yeah, someone who speaks distinctly, speaks clearly, finishes their words in a way that most people when they're talking probably don't.
yeah, guilty as charged. There is Yeah, there's you don't just have to do an accent. That is a weak link in my chain as well. I don't think that is not my strongest suit as a dungeon master. But a lot of what I am doing is messing with just like a little bit of intonation or tone or like those like class markers that are a little bit less well defined, I think, in America than in the United Kingdom where you can tell what neighborhood someone's from by their
Oh
diction
yeah, yeah.
sometimes.
Oh, completely, yeah. And so one of the videos I did on my channel actually was all about accents. So I get accused occasionally of not being Scottish,
Oh.
which is yeah. And
By
well,
who?
that's the thing, like two
Well, it's the internet. Never mind.
other Scottish people.
Ah,
So yeah,
no,
my
no
background.
true
So
Scotsman.
my
That's a whole thing.
yeah, logical fallacy there. But yeah, because so my parents are both English, but I lived in Scotland all my life,
Hmm.
so my accent's maybe not as strong as other people's. But yeah, the differences in accents, especially in Scotland, it can be you can tell where someone's from to within like the village, depending on how they speak and how that comes across. So I imagine that would be the same in fantasy worlds as well. I've never gone quite that detailed into world building, But yeah, it'd be really interesting to do. Sort of thinking, well, because accents are a feature of geography, not a feature of ethnicity, which is lots of people get very hung up on that. So, like, you might not want to do an Indian accent, or you might not, or a Japanese accent, because you're worried about offending people of a certain ethnicity. But everyone who grows up in that place will have that accent. It's a feature of the geography, um, and it's really interesting. I was watching it was a Trevor Noah video about that. It was part of his his one of his stand up shows, and he was saying exactly that. And if you're worried about offending someone, then yeah, it's a whole minefield, and I would be cautious about attempting any accent publicly, shall we say, but
Mm.
around a table, as long as it's done sort of with respect and is adding something to the character, then yeah, hopefully it's a good thing. But yeah, it's only ever like the icing on top. There is so much more you can do with your voice and even your physicality and your gestures, which can make all the difference in helping you find the difference between different characters, especially if you're GMing, so it's clear who's speaking. I actually watched the Ginny D video today on exactly this, which was yeah, it said a couple of the same things. That was a good one.
Yeah, a lot of good points there. It's interesting how, yeah, it's culture is not genetic, and there's been some productive and unproductive conversations about that in the space recently. Uh, um, our next D6 is a rival or enemy. So this could be the big
Ah,
bad of the campaign. This could be
mhm.
a
Personal.
person we had
Yeah.
some beef with in childhood, or anywhere in
Mm,
between.
3.
A three. Spider,
Mm,
Reese,
mhm,
spy master who uses info to build their web of leverage and blackmail. So this
mhm,
is all, well, my first impulse is this might be the old boss of the
mm.
Midnight Runners. What was the band's name?
Dexy's Midnight Runners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be interesting. So, if the organization is like allied and like good friends of the character, but the boss, a rival, well, Spy Master so probably is the boss at the center of the web there. Oh, that'd be fun. um, so I it'd be really tempting to have my character going up through the ranks, and even if I had to do this as like a character background little montage of sort of yeah age 13 they were noticed by the group and then sort of getting rising up in the ranks until the big boss just hated them for
Mm.
reasons real or imagined and made their life hell. um, and maybe that person is still that spider is still in charge of the group, and maybe they were the new boss and is now leading that allied faction who I loved and yeah, helped them out so much, leading them on darker pathways,
That's a, yeah, maybe we like
running down darker roads. There we are, running down darker roads.
we came up with them. We were not besties. Now they're in
Mm-hmm.
charge.
Mm-hmm.
And like we still know a lot of people in that organization. We used to work there, but now everyone was at that place where, the wrong person got promoted or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
So we could have some
Mm.
feelings about it. Because again, it doesn't have to come to blows. It could be like we might need to work with this person. It's just that we don't
Mm.
like them.
Yeah, and there's aggro, there's history there. There's something, yeah, something in that that's and again that's if I got this character, if someone gave me all of these bits of information as GM, I'd be so happy.
hmm.
Oh, brilliant guy! Because there's so many, sorry, so many different ways to take it.
And it could be
Mm.
like if they were. Ooh, it also could be like nepotism, right? They didn't deserve to be where they
Mm.
are for whatever reason.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But thanks to Daddy, they're able to. And Father dearest got them.
yeah,
Good job.
the only mind more
Mm.
devious than mine. There could be like some like jealousy aspect there, maybe cut in both ways.
Mm.
Um, okay, our next D6 is going to be an evocative location.
Cool, cool,
And I
cool.
find these are the best opportunities to tie in a bunch of different backstories, because in theory there's more than one player
Mm.
at your table. You could do this solo, I
Mm.
guess, but yeah, what do we get on the
We
D6?
have two on
Two,
D6.
the Opalescent Vault, a famous bank with magically protected safety deposit boxes.
Nice. That is going to be where that is the biggest job. That is the sort of crown jewels of this world. That's going to be the place where everybody knows you can't get in there. There's no way you can. It's not about being a good thief or not. You'd have to be invisible, invincible. You'd have to turn yourself to gas or something in order to get into that place. And so it's a magnet for thieves and anyone who's sort of one of the right people. And I could imagine it as the kind of place that my character would be sort of dreaming about finding ways into, like the unsolvable puzzle. And yeah, finding a way into that would be huge, even better than something that Mabel did. Yeah.
That's like the white whale. Like you could never get in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe like Grey Mabel got closest and got away. Everyone else who tries gets absolutely like hung up, depending on your depending on your system of punishment in your world. She's the only one that's tried and got away.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I could imagine that from the GM side. I'd make that something like a mid-level campaign, a mid-level group to try and heist that. Becomes a ton of fun. And something I absolutely love is I'll get players to paint the scene with me. And so maybe like the first time this place gets mentioned, or like say it comes up a few times, I'd ask all the players, "Hey, what rumors have you heard about this place? What things do you think guard this?" And just like the players go completely freewheeling with it, just see what they come up with. While me as GM writes notes furiously
Mm.
because their ideas will be better than mine. And then by the time they get there and actually have to do the heist, then one or two of them might be there to to face them.
God, and I'm a big fan of just like planting seeds and seeing if they grow. Like someone shows up to the
Mhm,
table with this like a rogue that it clearly has like this elaborate backstory. They put a lot of heart and soul into this
mhm,
character. I was like, all right, yeah, there's a bank in town. It's impossible. Like no one's ever
mhm.
gotten through.
Yeah.
Does
And
does
so
that
my
do
player
anything?
brain goes, "Oh, right, right, oh,
Hmm.
having that, that's mine."
Yeah, maybe you forget about it.
um,
Maybe it's the heart of the campaign
mm,
in 6 months. I got time to
mm,
develop it. You got time to
yeah, yeah,
make guesses about it that I can steal from you.
mhm, yeah, yeah. And also, a game like Blades in the Dark would be
Mm,
so well suited to
mm.
to this. Um, yeah, because like that's obviously all about heists and figuring out that kind of thing. You'd have that as like the final the final showdown. If you can get in here, then wow. Um, yeah, but I'm really enjoying like in my head this is a character in a heroic fantasy campaign of some sort where they are one of a group, but the group's got very disparate goals, and so like disparate personal goals. So having to set their goal aside to one day I'll get into the opalescent vault, that treasure that'll be mine sometime. But they need to go and help the wizard find spell components, or they need to, yeah, work with
And
the rats
then,
to beat up the tavern keeper.
yeah, exactly. And then down the road, it turns out like someone else's MacGuffin is in this place.
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Excuse me.
So as GM, a location like that, there's so many things you could put there, even if it's just mentioned in passing. So say there's like you get a letter between nobles or something, and say, oh yes, we're in vault number 13 of the opalescent vault. I expect you'll reply promptly, and just like me as a player, I'm an annoying note taker because as soon as that comes up, I'm like, right, having that, and that gets written down. So if that then came back again later, that's yeah, it makes me very happy as a player to see, and as a GM to like see that seed that place, even just in passing with players, becomes a ton of fun.
God, yeah. Hey, players, did your game master just say a proper noun? Write it down. You might be super happy you
Yes.
did, and it might be
Mm,
weeks or months away when the payoff
yeah.
comes.
Yeah. So if this was a computer game, there'd be a new map location on your on your mini
Dink.
map. Yep. Ah,
One more D6 for a thematic
cool.
monster.
Nice. Oh, some fun ones on here. Oop.
This is secretly my
Two.
favorite part. Two, gargoyle.
Two.
Animated flying
Hey.
statues, typically found on roof lines, guarding
Mm,
buildings. I mean, I think the opalescent vault would have some opalescent gargoyles.
yeah. Ooh. Oh, that'd be beautiful. I love that. Small tangent. The Gargoyles cartoon from 1990 something, with
Oh,
all of the Star Trek cast in it as voice actors.
I did not know that. I mean, I haven't thought of it in 20 years, but yeah, that was my favorite.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could remember. I don't know if I can name a character or a plot point, but I like put time out.
Goliath was the leader,
Ooh,
but yeah.
yes. Took time out of my day, like scheduled whatever time, like 3:30 in the afternoon. I had to watch Gargoyles or whatever it was.
Yeah, really good theme tune too. It's like an absolute banger of a theme tune.
I gotta, yeah, I'm
But yeah,
finding
Gargoyles.
that
I
tonight. Sorry.
mm. Oh, this is how we get nothing done. Like, oh, I've got these productivity plans, and nope, gonna watch Gargoyles. Uh, yeah, so Gargoyles, I I could easily see a connection with them and the um what were they? Midnight Runners,
Mm,
Midnight's Ravens. Sorry, um,
it's
they'd
runners now.
be yeah, broken it. Uh, where they'd be sitting on top of buildings, gaining information. Just yeah, and I think depending on your mythology and stuff, I'm thinking of was it Constable Downsprout in this in Downspout even in Discworld, who's a member of the Watch, and the thing that they're best at is watching. You just sit on top of a building and just see what goes by. But the trouble is that their mouth is permanently in the shape of an O. They can't talk. It's really hard to understand. So I think that's one of sort of working with your game master to figure out what are gargoyles in this. Because if they're all like Goliath and they're all big tanked up, will knock knock lumps out of you. That's a very different that's a very different kind of thing. Um, I I could imagine them being properly monstrous though. So where they're like fully feral, and maybe there's a reason why you don't go on the rooftops. Yeah, you don't go out, you don't go on the rooftops at night because there's too many hidden spaces where no one would notice if you got.
I love
Mm.
it because yeah, there's always this like I love the town map, but it's just the roof lines. It's like, wait a
Mm.
minute, there's always that gives me an idea. We could get up in there. It's like, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, good idea. I didn't think of that.
Yes, yeah, you can certainly try.
Yeah. All right, the
Mm.
last stop on our tour is a D20, the swingiest of dice. So a
Ooh,
plot hook that may tie
yeah.
this all together, may set us off in a whole
Mm.
other tangent, which is perfectly reasonable.
Let's let's find out. I need to pick up the D12 there. So they're so attached to it, but yeah, D20 in my hand. Let's go. Whoop. That is finally rolling competently. That's a 16.
16, big number.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
monster claims it was just a patsy following orders from a sinister
Mm,
figure in the shadows.
mm,
Monster claims it was
mm.
just a patsy following orders from a sinister figure in the shadows. I like the fight ending not with the monster's death, but with the monster being like, whoa, 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 hold on, you don't understand. That's always a good
Yeah.
heel turn.
Mm. It depends on your meaning of the word monster as
Mm,
well.
mm.
Maybe it's a human like character who has been depicted. This is the bait and switch of the big bad evil guy. Oh, but wait, an extract because we've got commissioned for series two. um, so I think that's probably not one to start an adventure with. but it's something to have as a point along the way. And
Mm.
that could be like the end of a chapter where you're looking for that cliffhanger to bring up, oh, but actually there's this greater evil. Um, as for monster, that could be, yeah, it could be a person. That could be our enemy. It could be the was it a spider Reese?
Mm.
Could be that person. And depending on their actions, maybe they've done something that's beyond the pale to our character's morals, which is this again goes back to Story by Robert McKee, which talks about your character has a value. That value has something in opposition to it, and that thing in opposition will be so. If my character values justice, then the opposite value would be injustice or corruption. But then there's a further step of that. If you want to make this character who cares about justice really hate about something, you need to take that opposition and bring it right beyond the pale. You need to make something just horrific, and that would probably be if it's justice, injustice, then tyranny, and absolutely arbitrary justice because the person feels like it. Not that we're talking about present day politics, folks.
Can't avoid it.
That to anyone with a strong sense of justice, that behavior is abhorrent. And that would be how I'd frame a monster if it was a sort of a human type character. And I'd make them do things or value things which aren't just opposed to my character's values, but so far beyond such a corruption, a perversion of everything they hold dear. And if my character is this good person on their arc, maybe the monstrous behavior is who they used to be.
Mm.
So if they are becoming selfless, maybe the opposition to that is selfishness. Well, beyond the pale for that, what is the sort of epitome of selfishness? It's probably betrayal, it's backstabbing, it's narcissism, it's all that. It's yeah, throwing everybody under the bus so that they can get what they want, and that becomes a really fun antagonist because if you're playing your character, you're going to despise them because you'd see some of yourself in them as well.
Mm.
Ah.
Mm. Perfect. Perfect.
Mm.
All right, I love that. I'm going back to the big screen. That felt pretty
Yeah,
complete. You talked about
yeah.
endings and sticking the landing
I
before.
think I've got so many like brains absolutely buzzing with where that character could go, where I could take them. I'll turn my dice off. Goodbye, dice. Yeah, yeah. Proud of you, dice cam.
It
Thank you
did
for your
its job
service.
then.
uh, yeah, that character feels like if someone said, "Hey, do you want to just jump into a campaign tomorrow?" Like, hell yeah, this guy's just ready to go. What they I deliberately wasn't overthinking their species or even class, particularly, although the criminal was likely to go to rogue, at least to begin with, um, because that could come out through the world. Like that, the thing I love about the system you've made here is it is so agnostic. You could drop that character into a modern day mafia setting. You could drop them into a cyberpunk. You could drop them into a far future sci-fi place, and they'd still feel at home. There's nothing particularly out of place there. You replace Mabel's magical gloves with I don't know implants and augments if you're doing a cyberpunk, and off you go. Um, so I think actually that's going to be a challenge to myself. Next game I play, and it's fitting, and it's not right. You're all I don't know. You're all puppies out to out to find out to find your ball. Next game I play, I will bring that character in as many traits and things as I can, and just see
Interesting.
where they go. Because yeah, I had an absolute blast doing that. It was brilliant.
Love it. Well, thank you. I enjoyed myself greatly, but I made the thing, so I always do. Um, cool. So, yeah, tell us a little more about the upcoming video that
Yeah.
might feature this this fine fellow. How would you make this
Yeah.
hateable
So
character
the
lovable?
video working title would be called Liars, Thieves, How to Roleplay Difficult Characters in D&D TTRPGs, because we need that in the titles, otherwise no one watches them. And
Sure.
the premise of that is a character like this one that we've made here, they could very easily be infuriating to the party. Very infuriating to your fellow players because the temptation to be a kleptomaniac and just steal stuff is so strong. So the video is going to look at how can you bring that character a bit more nuance and just likability to make them feel more fleshed out and so that there's reasons for they doing what they're doing. So one of the big things I'm really glad that rolled up was they have a code. They're not just doing it because they feel like it. They've got something in them, something more driving them than just ooh shiny having that. And I think that's going to be really interesting. And often, like, well, in this video especially, I do my due diligence beforehand of seeing has someone made this video and I'm just going to copy them. And I've not found much at all on the topic, either in sort of blog format or YouTube videos and things. There was a Reddit thread in 2016, which had some interesting advice in there, but there's been nothing I've found since. So
Hmm.
as a video, I think it's going to be a really interesting concept and something I think could be brought to. I'll probably mention this, obviously, like focusing on these sort of contrary characters and things as a starting point. But I feel like you could bring that easily to your NPCs if you're a game master. You could bring that as even how to play a character who is maybe under a curse or something as well, which can happen a lot. So how to play someone who is just so the natural tendency is to make them an arsehole to uh, to make sure that the game stays fun for everyone and to make sure that you keep on playing together.
Love it. Looking forward to it. Rich, thank you so much. This was a blast. Everyone go check out Renegade Rolls. Links down below where links go. Check out that video
Always binge watch
and
them.
all of the other
I
ones.
can see if you binge watch them. It's
Thanks so
great.
much for watching, everybody.
Right. Cheers.
Hey guys, we see what you're doing.
No, cheers, Ryan. Yeah.
We get stats. We got updates. Thanks for thank you everybody for watching. We appreciate it. We're
Yeah.
watching you watch us.
Yeah. This
Watch
is a smooth outro.
you
I think we
watch
can save
us.
this. Yeah.
I
Cheers,
lost the
everyone.
thread there.
Yes.
Nailed it. Bye.